what is the U.S. role in all of this, you may be thinking? The U.S., as this story is very well known, and the Nixon administration has sought to impede the accession of President Allende to power. He had been elected with a plurality, and he had to be confirmed in Congress, and he designed, or the CIA designed, a two-track policy approved by him personally and by Kissinger. That the first one was to try to buy a few of the congressmen so that they would vote for the second, for the runner-up, rather than for. That didn't work because the tradition in Chile was simply the Congress confirmed the candidate with the highest plurality. And second, a military coup. So the CIA provided weapons, provided explosives, and money to a group of military and civilian right-wingers. And that went bad because they tried to kidnap the commander-in-chief of the army at the time to blame it on the left, and they killed him instead of kidnapping him, and there was an outcry for democracy and for the confirmation of Allende. And after that followed an invisible blockade, basically. The idea was to make the economy scream, as Richard Helms wrote in his pad in a meeting in the Oval Office. And the interesting thing is that the only CIA chief that has ever been indicted for anything in the history of the United States has been Richard Helms for not telling the truth to Congress. So it was a very bitter period where the United States embraced Pinochet immediately after the coup, and the perception in Chile and in the world was this was a U.S. coup. It wasn't, because there was polarization in Chile. We were guilty of the coup because we polarized the country. We socialists and the communists thought that we could do revolution with a plurality, while the right opposed any change and wanted to preserve status quo, and the center, instead of playing the pragmatic role, became intolerant, and the country polarized. So we created Pinochet, but the United States was clearly the sponsor of the coup, and they made everything possible. The interesting thing is that the policy of the U.S. changes with Carter and changes with Ronald Reagan, because as you recall at the time, Reagan pushed the policy of democracy and human rights, thinking of the Soviet Union. But he couldn't overlook what was happening in Latin America, and he was worried about Central America. So he gave Pinochet the chance of quiet diplomacy with Ambassador Kilpatrick. But Pinochet thought, I have an ally, an anti-communist. I don't need to do anything about human rights. And he kept on with the repression until Reagan got tired of it and sent the message that he was going to change the policy. And in the end, the greatest support that we had in the plebiscite, in the mobilization against Pinochet, was from the U.S. government headed by President Reagan. So it was not a policy that was not without shades on the part of the United States, and the United States played a very constructive role under President Reagan to favor the reinstatement of democracy.